Mailbag time here on Falcons Today. I'm answering questions from our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. First question coming in from Mr. Luke Hughes, I'm sorry. Luke, did you see the Jerry Jones presser? Any chance they trade Micah Parsons? I did see the Jerry Jones presser. It kind of reminded me of like a half Trump, half Biden presser. Not to get political, but just like if you watched it, I think you come away with a similar overall assessment of it. Any chance the Cowboys trade Micah? No. I don't think they're going to trade Micah. I do think they're going to drag their feet and probably end up not paying all three of their star players. They're trying to brainwash their fans, not to make this a whole Cowboy segment, into believing that it's impossible to pay all three guys. The tough thing that the Cowboys don't realize is there's a team called the Philadelphia Eagles in their division, which has literally done that. Jalen Hurts, one of the highest paid quarterbacks. A.J. Brown, the second highest paid wide receiver. Like, you can pay Dak and CeeDee Lamb. Oh, and also the Eagles, Devontae Smith, top 10 in wide receivers. Their offensive line, covered in cash. Their defense, there are some expensive dudes on that half of the field as well. So, will the Cowboys ever get to a point where they trade Micah? Unlikely. But man, if it ever gets to that point, I sure hope the Falcons are on the phone. I don't think I need to sell Micah Parsons on anyone. I'll give up pretty much whatever it would cost to get him. It's probably going to require 2 first-round picks and then some more, but I think he'd be worth it. He would instantaneously become the Falcons' best player defensively in franchise history. Like, if Micah Parsons played his first 3 years with the Falcons, I think he'd be the number 1 player in Falcons history on... Sorry, I forgot about primetime. That was dumb of me. I was just thinking about pass rushes for a moment. That's my fault. Second best? Arguably? Probably. So, yeah, I'd love to see that happen. But we'll have to wait and see on that frontier. Hopefully, the Cowboys can continue to piss down their legs a little bit. I mean, the Falcons are going to see Dallas. You can look at the schedule really quickly. It's not until a little bit later on in the season. Fast forward to, I think it's week 9 at home against the Cowboys. So we'll see what they look like at that point. But I don't want to say, yes, the Falcons can trade for Micah, because I don't think the Cowboys are going to pick up the phone for any trades. But they may next offseason when he's going into his 5th and final year of his rookie contract. And if they've already paid Dak and CD, maybe they feel like they won't be able to, which they are able to, pay him. And they'd rather get something for him now before he walks in free agency. Now, looking at the schedule again, which Falcons game do you want to go to the most? Chiefs game? Cowboys game? Like, there are some really good games on the schedule. Let me know which game you want to go to the most if you had to pick one. Moving on to our next question. Mr. Fatboy 1987, which rookie do you think will make their way to the field first as a starter? Turn off injuries, I'd pick Braylon Trice. The only guy standing between him and a starting role is Lorenzo Carter. That is the thinnest wall to break through compared to Rook, who's got like Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, Zach Harrison on top of him. Penix ain't starting anytime soon, in my opinion. Brandon Dorlus is behind Rook on the defensive line. I think it's Braylon Trice, the 3rd-round pick, outside linebacker out of Washington. Archangel, what's going on, dude? New additions. Which new additions excite you the most, being one from the offense and being one from the defense? Great question, Archangel. Offensively, new addition, Kirk Cousins is like the easiest answer, and honestly, it's the only answer. Like, I can try and be niche and be a little bit unique and say like Darnell Mooney or Charlie Werner, but I'd be lying to you. It's kind of like when someone asks you, who's your favorite character from The Office? It's Michael. Like, they might try and pass off like, I'm a Creed guy. No. It's Michael. And for the Falcons, it's Kirk Cousins. Like, there's just no other way to put it. The Falcons last year got to 7 wins with below-average quarterback play. Give them above-average quarterback play, not just average quarterback play, above-average quarterback play, that's a potential 10-11 win team right there. Defense, new addition, there's not a whole lot of them. They didn't sign many players, unfortunately. I would have hoped they'd sign some more. I'd go with Eddie Goldman. Is that even really an addition coming out of retirement? But if they can get that 2018, 2019 version of Eddie Goldman, a rotation of him, Onyemata, and Jarrett, sure, those are some older dudes, but they are really good. And if you can squeeze the last little bit of football juice out of them over the next few years, it's going to be a really tough run defense unit. That one, Falcons fan, 2 questions. 1, could we see Stephon Gilmore and Marcus Davenport on the team? 2, predict these. First touchdown, first sack, first interception. I like it. All right, could we see Stephon Gilmore? No, I don't think so. I think the Falcons are content with Clark Phillips and Mike Hughes. Is Stephon Gilmore better than those guys? Yeah, of course he is. Sorry to Clark and to Mike, but come on. Now, is there a future with Stephon Gilmore beyond this year? No. So I think the Falcons are trying to grow some of their younger players. Davenport's on the Detroit Lions, so they're not getting him. First touchdown, I'll say the first touchdown of the season is a Kirk Cousins touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts. First sack is going to be Arnold Ebiketie, similar to like his first game in the NFL too, by the way. And first interception, I'll go with A.J. Terrell. Just kind of get that donut off the board. Hasn't gotten a lot of picks lately. Let's go with A.J. Terrell. I know very chalky, but I'm feeling chalky. Markevius Green, you're next up on the show. Do you think the Falcons can beat the Chiefs? And if so, what do you think about the Falcons going into the season? I do think the Falcons are capable of beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs are always good for like a surprising loss in the first 6 weeks of the year. Notice how Kansas City never starts off like 10, 11, 12, and 0. They always seem to like sleepwalk through a game. And they may feel like Atlanta's a spot where they can sleepwalk. They've been caught doing that before with their pants down at their ankles. The Colts tend to do that to them a couple of times. Once in Kansas City, last year in Indianapolis. So, can the Falcons beat the Chiefs? Yeah, they can beat the Chiefs. They'll have to be on their A-plus game, though. And it's going to be a tough schedule to open up the year. Versus Pittsburgh, at Philly, versus Kansas City. But they also need some help from Kansas City. If they're on their A game, the Falcons, to be honest, don't stand a chance. It's still Patrick Mahomes. But we have seen Mahomes and mostly just the other 21 starters not look their best for every single week early on in the year. Cap a lot of bussin'. What would you give up for Reddick? I wouldn't give up a lot for Reddick because if he truly does become available for a trade because of his holdout, you kind of got the Jets by the balls. They don't have much leverage. They are kind of desperate at that point. They gave up a conditional third-round draft pick that could become a second-round draft pick. I think you can call New York if they truly get to a point of no return with Reddick and go, listen, you gave up a third. We're not going to give you a third, but we'll give you a fourth. And that's going to be your best offer. So just accept the sunk cost already and at least get something and move on without it being an even bigger mistake than it already is. I would give up a fourth-round draft pick for Reddick. Now, if this was from day one, talking to the Eagles, I would give up a third-round draft pick, which is what the Jets gave up for him. But now that you've got a lot of leverage and the Jets are desperate, no, don't surrender a third. Give up a fourth. Before we move on to the rest of the questions on today's show, if you have a question you want to ask, join us for our live shows every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Ask away during the mailbag portion of our show. It's a great opportunity to interact with me, the host, so I always love hanging out with you guys during our live weekly shows. So come every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. My Swanker, do you see Penix playing in midseason or no? I don't. I don't think we're going to see Michael Penix play early in the year. We haven't seen much of Michael Penix because it's only been a few days of training camp, but I don't think Michael Penix has been lighting the world on fire. Like, if you just go back to the spring, which, very early on in his very young pro career, there were some good passes, there were some not so good passes. Like, he looked like, honestly, what 99% of rookie quarterbacks look like in their first few practices. So, unless Kirk Cousins gets injured, I don't think we're seeing Michael Penix play for, honestly, 2 years. I think Kirk Cousins has that starting job for 2024 in 2025. Matthew Petey fan, do you think Kirk Cousins will be in the MVP race this year? And who will Kirk's biggest weapon be, the person he throws the ball throws to the most? Drake London, to answer the second part of your question. Like, we saw Kirk Cousins develop a great chemistry with Justin Jefferson, which wouldn't be tough to do. Like, I could probably do it. That's how good Jettas is. But I think that's going to be the number one target for Kirk. Can Cousins be in the MVP race? Yeah, sure, why not? But I think the comeback player of the year race is a little bit more realistic for him. In order to be in the MVP race, it's not just about putting up great numbers. The team needs to win. Go look at all the quarterbacks that have won the MVP award. Lamar won it last year. Lamar wasn't like playing the greatest football of his career. Like, if you look at the last 5 MVPs, his MVP season is probably the weakest. But the Ravens were the number 1 seed in the AFC, in a really tough AFC. So the Falcons need to do more than just have a good quarterback. They got to have a great team, like win-wise. So I would look at comeback player of the year for Kirk. The Dogs YouTube. Do you think Grady Jarrett will lead the team in sacks this year? If not, who? I don't think he will. Just 31 years of age, coming off a torn ACL. I'll say Arnold Ebiketie, and I'll say he leads the team with sacks with 7.5. I mean, that'd be a good jump for him from where he was last year. 6 sacks, where the leading sack getter was at 6.5. But I'll say Arnold, and I'll put it at 7 sacks. That's my prediction right there. Moving on to our next question. One moment. Sorry, everyone. Ed Garrett. No Eddie Goldman news today. Is it time to panic? No. That sounds like a good thing, unless I'm missing out on a great inside joke here. But it is like a little surprising that he's come this far. Like, I would say he's through the hard part yet. Training camp's the hard part. Like, training camp in Flowery Branch, Georgia. Like, the only worst place to have training camp is Miami, Florida. Like, it's hot down there. But if Eddie Goldman can stick it out for a few more weeks, like, I think the whole reason he likes to retire is the offseason workouts suck. The in-season part's fun. So he's gotten through most of the offseason. Just stick it out, Eddie, because we'd love to have you on this defensive line. Now, before we get to the last question or two, I do want to tell everyone watching about the great deal going on at Fanatics. If you want to get this Falcons t-shirt and hat combo, nearly 50% off, go to chatsports.com/ATL combo. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. But get yourself some new Falcons gear going into the season. Chatsports.com/ATL combo. Get not only a hat and a t-shirt, 45% off. Dylan Snap. Who finishes with more touchdowns, Pitts or Algier? I'll say Pitts. I know that people have been very upset with me for even suggesting the idea of Tyler Algier as a potential trade candidate. I think the Falcons are going to force feed Bijan Robinson the football. You look what happened last year in LA with the Rams. They found something in Kyren Williams. What do? Force feed Kyren Williams. They didn't go, ooh, let's get a nice balanced approach here. No. They found, for the first time in a while in LA, a good back. And this coaching staff, which is mostly made up of former Rams coaches, come to Atlanta and inherit their next Kyren Williams. What do you think muscle memory is going to have them do? Force feed the ball to Bijan. So I don't think Algier's in for a massive workload this year. He's still valuable in short yardage situations and at the goal line. But to me, I would feel much more comfortable predicting Pitts has more touchdowns than Algier. That one Falcons fan serving as our trivia question for today's show. Which non-quarterback for the Falcons holds a perfect passer rating? I'll share the answer at the end of the mailbag. Is this our last question, Reed? One fun question, but get your predictions in right now. Get your guesses down below. I know the answer, but let me know if you know the answer. Which non-quarterback, for the Falcons holds a perfect passer rating? Buddy Bear, along with some other super chats we can sprint through. What part of Wyoming did you live in, Petey? yeah, a little bit about your host. I spent 1 year living in Southwest Wyoming, Evanston. Had a great year there working in small town radio. Then eventually got the opportunity to join the Chat Sports team, and I've been, happy ever since. But that was where I live, Buddy Bear. Appreciate you, though, for being a longtime supporter of all of us here at Chat Sports. Grand Limousine, a long time supporter of us here at Falcons Today, along with Anthony Pascal. Thank you to everyone who sends in super chats and supports the channel. If you want to get a shout out on a future episode of Falcons Today, super chat or super thanks, and we'll throw it on for everyone to see. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. That trivia question, though, the answer, you probably guessed it, Mohamed Sanu. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up later.